next to Sorstrom and kind of just like rest her head against him and close her eyes.
Mm, I'm gonna keep still and be a good resting post.
Mm-hmm.
We saw something after we left the tower.
What did you
Well,
see?
I think you did. I didn't see anything.
Oh, it it was a dark figure. It it did something to me. It's like it reached inside me and filled me with such coldness. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I felt like I was going to die.
She watches you sort of. Well, she watches you for a moment, and she says, "It's most dark. I'm
Yes.
so sorry for you, my dear."
I never, ever want to see that thing again.
She walks over and just like gently pats you on the
Thank you.
shoulder. Can you make me a perception check?
Sorry, I
Who is?
didn't
What?
hear that.
Mittens, can you make me a perception check?
Oh no, I'm gonna be in the trees.
Okay. Insight. Okay. Oh well. So, as you see, despite the light from the fire mittens, you see a strange shadow start to pass over Mother Sylvance's features. It lingers for several moments, giving her face an almost skeletal appearance, a flickering green glint in her eyes, almost like some ghastly burning flame catches your attention before vanishing as quickly as if it had never appeared.
Who's this then?
Mother Sylvance
No,
and
no.
Mitten
Do
Saga.
we?
Mitten Saga.
Okay, only men. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Esmeralda just lets out this like tiny gasp as it happens, and then she just looks at Mother Sylvanza for a while, just trying to figure out what she just saw, if she even saw anything at all.
Polly, Patrick, and Sunny, can you all roll me a perception check?
Okay.
All right. Deep in the woods, Yvette and Natasha, you both hear something shifted, the crack of branches and the scraping of leaves. While you hear this too, Venus, you look back to the fire and suddenly it shifts from a bright yellow orange to a sickly blue. A leering face stares back at you for a moment before you blink and the fire is as it was before.
Did anyone just see that?
What? See you one?
It into fire.
I,
There, there was a face. Didn't you see it?
Wait, did we see the fire, or was it just the forest stuff for us?
It was just a forest stuff for you.
Yeah, okay, that's not.
Oh. Oh.
Oh.
No.
Mother Sylvansa looks over to you and she says, "Now, now, Zatis, What are you all about? You're just scared from is a terrible thing. I'll be back soon and I'll tell you a story to settle your bone.
I
With that, she kind of goes back to lighting some of the lanterns.
I don't
is
know, guys. I think it's just been a long day.
Anton still around?
Yes, of course. He's over by the fire.
Um, well, I'm gonna make sure to not have the girl on my shoulder fall to the ground,
Of course.
and I'm gonna approach him and then ask him, well, deep down in this cavern and those strange places, I caught up upon a name that I've never heard before. Um, have you ever heard of Malvolana, perhaps?
He looks at you and he says, "Ooh, now that name rings a bell. I'll have to think for a moment."
Certainly.
And by this time he's kind of thinking, flipping back through his notes in his journal. And by this time, Mother Salamanca, she returns and she kind of settles herself, and you can tell that she's about to tell a story, but Selvra, she leaves it and she says, "Mother, let me. I have one I'd love to tell these again, these Zatis." And she smiles as she leans in. And she says, "I know you all know this one. The legend of Xylea. Long ago, many centuries before the Woe of Ruin, there were no traveling folk, for the blood touch had never manifested itself within any of the high races. But there came a day when the mother of all Hanatas was born. Her name was Xylea Aliana, and she was conceived in the coupling between an elven dancer named Gailani Eliana and an unnamed traveling jester. The two were said to have consorted on a warm spring eve some 2,000 years ago under the smiling light of a full-faced Luneos. 9 months later, on the 22nd day of the last month of the year, known as Fool's Day, Xylea Aliana came into this world. If the tales be true, she was beautiful, behold, with an uncanny wit and unnatural charm that could make the most surly king laugh till he cried. Her tricks were astounding and her jests greater than any comedic personage who had come before her. By the time she was just 16 years old, she was entertaining the highest courts and playing the grandest stages of the Ethernic civilization. Azalea had a secret that none except her mother knew. Namely, that beneath her thick makeup and billowing clowny clothes, she had a skin of reddish orange, dark blue scales upon her back, and tiny horns beneath her. The secret was kept well for a number of years, until Zoltruna Verdasan, one of the High Elven kings, determined that he would have Xylea for his own. He devised a plan to have the woman entertain his court for the birthday of his brother. But this was just a ruse to bring her into his magnificent forest city and into his majestic cathedral in the trees. The night before she was to perform, the king made his way in secret to the guest suite in which Xylea was abiding. There, from a hidden niche, he watched her disrobe and bathe in the open pool in her chambers. As he regarded her, he was even more enraptured when he saw her exotic skin and beautiful shape gleaming in the moonlight. He then came forth from his place of hiding and exposed himself for her his lust inflamed, his desire for her greater than anything he had wished for in all his life. But Xylea, she rebuked Saltruna and slapped his face for taking such liberties. Ashamed, the king left her presence and retired to brood in his bedchambers, and plot his revenge upon the lass that had so belittled him in his own castle. Thus, on the night following at the performance for Saltruna's brother, a stage hook chanced to catch upon Xylea's costume, tearing much of it from her body, exposing her secret for all the world to see. The king feigned aghast at the sight of her, and others in the audience followed suit, as they had prepared to do by the king's orders. A group of priests in the audience named her a demon. She was cast from the courts, never to perform again. Indeed, her alien appearance marked her for all in the realm, and she was turned out of villages and towns wherever she traveled. Then one day, as Zalea walked along alone in the road, hoping beyond hope that she could just find a welcome in the next town, an old man in a jester's hat, driving a colorfully painted wagon pulled by huge blue horses, came up beside her. Xylea regarded the wizened figure who held the reins and was taken aback at the brightness in his eyes and the warmth of his smile. The man asked if she would like a ride, and did not seem at all bothered by her alien appearance. Xylea agreed, and the two rode together for over a year. 'Tis said that the old man told Xylea many things in their time together, for he was wise beyond wisdom. He spoke of life and love and purpose. He talked of the life song and the way of all things, in the first flows of the Xyanthus, almost as if he had witnessed creation himself. He told Xylea that she was special, that she would be the first of many, and that much depended on her and on those who would come after her. He even named her people, which are called the Hanatas even to this day. The word has no translation into the tongue of the common speech, but some have said it means the fool's dance, while others say it refers to the last laugh in some great comedic performance. One day, Xylea awoke to find that the old man had left. Sitting beside her were a necklace upon which hung the symbol of the god Jinx, a large, level, bound magic tome, and the jester's hat that the old man had worn. Nearby was the brightly painted wagon, and the great blue horses that pulled it. Xylea donned the necklace and the hat, and cracked open the tome. An inscription had been written on the inside of the cover. All it said was, "The greatest jest is yet to be played. Learn well your part." The tome was said to contain all the spells of the traveling folk, the methods for crafting of their magic tents, enchanted movements of their spell dancers, and the many incantations that create the phantasms and illusion that even today delight the crowds at the carnivals. Xylea studied the tome intently, learning the conjurations and magical dances while she crafted the first of the magical tents. Soon thereafter, people began to come to Xylea's town, called by some unseen compulsion. Like her, these folk also had strange afflictions, deformities, and alien characteristics. And like her, those abnormalities had made them unwelcome in their hometowns. Over time, these folk built their own wagons, and together the group traveled the roads of the grand civilizations, hosting the first carnivals and beginning the legacy of the Hanatas. And it came to pass that Xylea discovered that she had the power of divination, allowing her to peer into the future and see shades of that what of that which was to be. She named this gift the sight and began to use it for the benefit of her people. Some years later, just before the Woe of Ruin occurred, it is said that The old man once again came to Xylea, who was now of advanced age. The old man guided her in the troop she oversaw to a remote hidden valley in the northern reaches, far from where the great calamity would originate. Then the troop would survive the great destruction that followed, and in the aftermath began to establish their place in the new world. Some years, in the following years, it seemed that more folk than ever were afflicted with the blood touch, and the one troop became two, then three, and several. Other troops were raised up on the continents as well, and the Hanataz people, though still ostracized from general populations, achieved some measure of prosperity in the centuries that came afterward. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the
Where's
year
enraptured?
222 SC, 222 years after the world ruin, Xylea was laid to rest in a secret shrine on the continent of Verdestia. Her writings and teachings, however, have lived after her and have been preserved by many Hanataz troops that traveled the roads of the world. And such is the tale of the origin of the Hanataz. As the story finishes, Mother Salvenza leans forward and just gives a slight clapping. And as you've noticed this, you guys have started to calm just a bit. And then you notice that Cray has slowly stopped sharpening his knives and is slowly meandered to the edge of the fireside. His hand on the pommel of his sword, his pose is rigid and intense, his eyes are level. Brian, has also looked away from the fire and has begun to cast his sightless gaze into the darkness beyond the fire. Both Borog and Alnase are regarding Cray from their seats, but both have their hands to their weapons. Suddenly, the wind begins to increase in intensity. The breeze that at first only had an uncomfortable nip now cuts with frosty stings as the many fires in the camp whip and writhe under its forceful touch. The drowsy expression on Vezi's face melts away as she scrambles to her feet, eyes wide with fear. You hear the keening wail of little Krita over the howling wind rushing past your ears, fear causing her to cry out. What do you do?
Reach for my own weapons as I
Yeah.
stand up.
Yes.
I'll
Standing.
jump up.
Also, just as a slight question, since we had an hour to relax, could I spend a hit die or something?
Sure.
I'm still on 5 hit points here, and that's
Yeah, I need one too.
And other than that, I would also like to stand up and look into the darkness surrounding us.
Suddenly, all goes still. What is? Mother Salvenza starts to ask, before every fire and lantern in the camp flares with incredible vehemence. You hear the telltale schleck of Cray's blade being drawn before a piercing scream echoes in the darkness just before you. You recognize the voice. It's Vezi's. It's coming, she cries in panic terror, her hands clasped tight over her ears and her eyes shut tight. The bad thing, I can see it. The bad thing, it's so close. Please, make it go away. And she begins to scream louder and louder, and suddenly falls silent for several heart-pounding seconds. Her tiny hands drop to her sides, and you see her raise her eyes and stare off into the night. It's here, she says. What do you do?
What is
Yeah.
going on?
Well, I'm like, Esmeralda's gonna like, look to the other like older members of the troop to like see what they're doing before she does anything
They
herself.
all have their hands on their blades. Borag and Kolnase are standing at this point. Cray has drawn his sword, and he is looking around. While he very rarely portrays an emotion, you can tell that he is searching for a threat.
I'm gonna move closer to Cray.
I'm going to stand in front of Javessa.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanna move to an edge of the gathering that isn't quote unquote guarded and look around for whatever might come there.
All right. Is everyone ready?
No.
Yeah.
When are we ever ready?
Omega. As the
Yes?
hushed words leave Vezi's lips, a wave of vertigo sweeps through your head. Your vision tunnels and your breath hitches in your chest as creeping emerald tendrils start to reach for you from the fire's blazing light. You start to fall before the hungering appendages and cloying shadows engulf you. A sick, malevolent laughter thunders through your mind, and you hear a deep, hissing voice speak just as the blackness takes you. I come for you, Shizan. As your eyes cast about looking for a threat.
Did anybody hear that? That's. Oof.
As your eyes cast about looking for a threat, you see Mother Salvenza and Thorstrom go limp in unison and crumple to the ground. Bryon and Anton rush over to Mother's side, then suddenly the flames in the pit and the lanterns burst into a shower of billowous green sparks, and just as quickly go out completely. The last thing you see before the entire camp is plunged into darkness as little Vezi, her eyes wide with terror, staring up at the black sky. And that is the end of chapter 1.
Da, da, da.
Ooh.
Clap,
All
clap,
right.
clap.
Yes.
Wow.
Vince,
That
you
was
stopped recording, by the way.
intense.
Am I
You
dead
stopped
now?
recording, by the way.
Huh?
I can. Yeah.
Vince.
Yes.
All right, so that was that. I know that Goo Man wanted us to go chat with him once we were done. Just to talk about it if you wanted to join. So
I will
Sure.
stop
we can go